When a person disappears, it is always a tragedy for family and friends and a challenge for the police. But it gets even worse when an entire family goes missing. Number 3, the Martin family. The Martins were a family who lived in Portland, Oregon. They were Kenneth Martin, the father, Barbara Martin, his wife, and their 3 teenage daughters, Barbie, Virginia, and Susan. The oldest son was Donald, who was in the Navy at the time and was stationed in New York. On December 7, 1958, the Martins went on a trip to the Columbia River Gorge, looking for a tree for Christmas. They never returned. When Kenneth failed to report to his job, his boss phoned him, but he never answered. Somehow, he realized the Martin girls were absent from school. Worried, he decided to call the police. The police investigated the residence that evening, but couldn't find any signs of foul play. Witnesses reported a few sightings of the family in different locations: a gas station, a restaurant, and an unspecified location in the middle of the forest. Searching was undertaken by the police, but did not produce any leads. A stolen Chevrolet was found the same day the Martins disappeared. The police dismissed it as it did not match the Martins' car. But a gun was found nearby the car. It was a .38 revolver, stained with dried blood. The gun's serial number was traced to a Portland gun store. The gun had been reported by the store as stolen by an employee 2 years ago. The employee's name, Donald Martin, the oldest son of the Martins. After an investigation, 2 men were arrested for the robbery of the Chevrolet. A witness at the restaurant told the police she had seen the men leave the place at the same time the Martins did. No connection to Donald Martin could be found. Weeks later, a man discovered tire tracks leading off a cliff near the Dalles. The FBI recovered paint chips from the place. Later analysis revealed that the paint matched the Martins' car. This finding led to the theory that Martin's car had plunged into the river. 3 months later, the bodies of Susan and Virginia were recovered from a dam 70 miles away. The bodies were badly decomposed, so it was impossible to determine a cause of death. The bodies of Kenneth, Barbara, and Barbie were never found. The police didn't believe in an accident. Based on witness reports, the Martins were too far from the Dalles to get there before sunset. So, if the car fell from the cliff, it was at night. 8 years after the family's disappearance, Donald, the only surviving member, inherited his parents' property. It was a modest house, so few believed it could be the motive for a possible conspiracy. But some thought Donald was behind the incident because he never claimed his sister's remains. Number 2. The Gill family. The Gills were a family who lived in Entre Rios, Argentina. The family members were Reuben Gill, the father, Margarita Gallegos, the mother, and their children, Maria Ofelia, 12 years old, Osvaldo, 9 years old, and Carlos, 3 years old. The family lived on La Candelaria, a farm where Reuben Gill and his wife Margarita worked as landlords. The farm belonged to Alfonso Guet and is located 50 miles from the provincial capital. On the night of January 12, 2002, the family went to Viale, a nearby town, to the funeral of a friend. This is the last time they were seen. In April of that same year, Guet contacted relatives to inform them that the family have not returned from the 3-month vacation they were given in January. The sister of Reuben made the initial police report at the police station for the family's disappearance. The case was labeled as a missing persons investigation and was left to Judge Jorge Galino. 16 months later, Judge Galino ordered an investigation. No evidence surfaced due to the time passed. In 2006, the Gill family's lawyer stated that there was a cover-up because some police officers were involved. These officers were suspects in 2 other disappearance cases. This hypothesis was ignored by the investigators. In 2008, a raid was carried out on La Candelaria, where the floor was raised, wells were dug out, and traces of blood were found using luminol. 3 human blood samples were recovered, but no results of DNA analysis were made public. In 2015, a new judge was assigned to the case, and he decided to restart the investigation. Searchings were carried out by a large group of volunteers, but no new evidence was found. Get claimed that the family had left all their possessions in the house, including money and documents, but when relatives visited the room, they couldn't find anything but burned mattresses. It seems that Get burned the mattresses because they were stained with blood. In addition, the fact that Get did not notice the Gills' disappearance until 3 months later, and that some acquaintances declared that the relationship between them was not good, suspicions fell on the owner. However, he was never accused. Witnesses said that local authorities accepted bribes from Get. Get died in a car crash on June 16, 2016, at the age of 78. The truck he was driving steered out of control and overturned. With his death, the investigation was reopened, but until this day no clue has surfaced. Number 1. The Jack Family. On Tuesday, August 1, 1989, Ronnie Jack left the First Leader pub in Prince George, British Columbia, feeling hopeful. At 26 years old, Ronnie had been out of work due to a back injury, and the Jack family had been living on welfare. Someone at the bar that night offered to help. The man told Ronnie about a job opportunity for him and his wife, Doreen, at a logging camp or ranch in the Klukelts Lake area, about 40 kilometers west of Prince George. Ronnie was offered a job bucking logs, and Doreen was offered a position as a cook's helper in the camp kitchen. The man told Ronnie the camp even had a daycare for the couple's 2 sons, Russell, who was 9 years old, and Ryan, who was 4. The Jacks didn't have a car, so the man offered to drive them to the job site that night. At 11:16 p.m., Ronnie called his brother and told him about the camp job. Ronnie said the family would be at the site for 10 to 14 days and would be home by the time school began. The man waited for Ronnie, Doreen, Russell, and Ryan to pack their belongings. At 1:21 a.m. on August 2, 1989, all 4 members of the Jack family were seen leaving their home and piling into the man's dark pickup truck. They were never seen again. The family was officially reported missing on August 25, 1989. Their disappearance is the first and only of its kind in Canadian history. Nearly 7 years later, the most significant tip about the Jack family's disappearance came early on January 28, 1996. A man called the police with a brief message: "The Jack family are buried in the south end of a ranch." It was over in 10 seconds. The caller had hung up before the dispatch could ask any questions. Although police were eventually able to trace the call to a house in Vanderhoof, where a house party had taken place during the time frame of the call, it's unclear if the caller was ever identified. Since the investigation began, the police have conducted hundreds of interviews, obtained thousands of documents related to the case, and have searched several properties in search of Ronald, Doreen, Russell, and Ryan. The most recent search for the Jack family took place in 2019 at a property south of Vanderhoof. Ground-penetrating radar and heavy equipment were used. No trace of the Jack family has ever been found. The description of the man who offered the job to Ronnie at the pub was compiled from statements by witnesses. The man is the prime suspect in the family's disappearance. Over 30 years have passed. The Jack family's fate and the identity of the suspect remain unknown.